Chapter 37. Callie stormed onto the bridge. Tyrell glanced up. What's going on? I expected her to be more relaxed. She was, Syntholo said as he walked over and sat at one of the terminals. She expected Jake to take care of the surgery. We forgot to tell her where I was before I came back with the shuttle earlier. While we were on our way back, we got a call from the hospital. Did something happen? Tyrell asked with concern. No, it's fine, Syntholo snickered. He's waiting to be picked up, but she's on the warpath. It is definitely not fine, Callie snapped. We have a perfectly good, probably better, surgeon on the ship. I've just made friends with a resistance group. Do you want to know what they could have done with the kind of money I just pissed away because he refused to let our doctor take care of a routine procedure? Be reasonable, Tyrell chuckled. I wouldn't want someone I don't trust playing with my nuts. I did that with my ex-wife, and you know how well that ended. Well, at least I won't have to pretend to be angry when he gets here, Kayla snorted. I'm still a bit worried about acting my part in this little drama, Tyrell grumbled. I'll do what I can to help, Syntholo smiled, and I'll write you up some notes while I'm waiting on Shinji at Port Liberty. Just go, Kayla said as she plopped down in a seat at the front of the bridge. Syntholo finished up at the console, then headed off to go get Shinji. Was he sending off a message to his government? Callie asked Tyrell after the main display showed Syntholo had left the ship. Just letting them know we're running behind schedule. Nothing interesting. Good, Kayla sighed. I like believing he's on my side, even if his loyalties are divided. Did you find anything about who's running Def Corp in the Karzon Protectorate? The fleet commander is a Shamfarian named Kasnov. One of those Ravenhawk clones is near the top of the hierarchy, but his title is administrative, not military, financial, or straight logistics. From the looks of it, it's more of a consultant position, so I have no clue how much influence they really have. Kasnov, Kayla muttered. I know that name. Never mind, it's not important right now. How did things go with that junker? The salvage crew? Their old ship was paid off in full and insured. The captain decided to retire. The jackass at the bar was the captain? Nah, Tyrell smiled, just crew. Say what you will, but he did help me get through to the head of the salvage team. It took some work, but we came to an agreement. I bought a fairly basic, used, salvage ship model using the discretionary fund. They're leasing it, for now. If they take care of that job looking for your space animal, I'll just reduce the amount they owe to pay off the lease. If they play their cards right, they could own the ship outright within 5 years. Most of the old crew signed on with the new captain. Your friend from the bar refused. Guess he has a problem working under women. Hard to make them happy that way. Callie grinned. The new captain's a woman? Was she part of the old crew? The engineer, Tyrell smiled. Nice kid. Clean record. Self-educated. She'd be working for a faction if she went to the right school, but her parents didn't have the money for that. You seem to be developing a penchant for adopting young women who need a father figure. Tyrell chuckled softly. Only the ones that are worth a damn. The main ship console beeped. Syntholo was on his way back from the surface with Shinji. Stop calming me down, Callie teased. I have to get all fired up by the time they get here. Well, this should get you fired up, Tyrell grumbled. There's been a sighting. What? The ship that attacked Nadrok, and that animal in space, Tyrell inhaled deeply. It was detected near the Mujan quarantine zone a couple days back. A cyberpath posted about it on Godnet. They reported it as a sensor ghost, but the equipment checked out fine, so they started asking around. I haven't been able to reach them for more information. The real question is if that really is our phantom, how did it get that far this fast without using any known routes or a stargate? There is no Starlink in that area. Either there's more than one of those ships or they have found a way to travel faster than any known engine design is capable of. Maybe they found an uncharted slipstream, but I highly doubt it. Now I'm confused, not angry, Callie sighed. Sorry, Tyrell laughed. I must have lost my touch after retiring. I used to be much better at making women angry. One woman in particular, maybe, Callie teased. With everything that's happened, why are you keeping the kid around? I suspect Ravenhawk still has some way of using him to keep tabs on what I'm doing. If I'm right, it will ensure he keeps getting bad intel. Tyrell looked toward the elevator, then back at Callie. So, if the kid is under this guy's control, doesn't that mean, in a way, screwing Shinji's like fucking that guy? Callie glared at Shinji as he stepped off the elevator onto the bridge. She doesn't look happy, Syntholo said as he carefully pushed past him. They each knew the role they had to play to make this convincing. Syntholo's abilities made his mind too slippery to read, and as a cyberpath, Tyrell had nothing to worry about. As Callie, with her twin souls merged, her defenses were nearly impenetrable, but her emotions could still betray her. Her anger towards Syntholo and Tyrell would have to feel genuine. Focusing on her jealousy over that dance with Nelfrey should be enough. She just had to be careful not to take it too far. Don't look so amused, Callie snarled. Your role in this idiocy didn't escape my notice. I just gave him a ride to the surface, Syntholo said with a crooked grin. Don't put this on me. I made sure to bring him back after the doctor was done with him. He was smooth. The righteous indignation felt real. Kayla blurted out the first thing that came to mind to maintain the momentum. I don't know what you two were even thinking. Shinji looked pleadingly over at Tyrell. She was having difficulty portraying real anger toward Tyrell, and Shinji seemed to have noticed. I got in enough trouble for clearing you two to leave, Tyrell said irritably. Leave me out of it. The least you could have done is tried to calm her down, Shinji complained. Syntholo studied Tyrell for a moment and said, what makes you think he didn't? Tyrell rolled his eyes and shook his head in disgust. Those two played well off each other, but unless someone gave her something to work off. I don't want kids, Shinji said forcefully. What makes you think I'd want you to sire any? Both of her souls scoffed in unison within the depths of her mind. That's not even the issue, Callie snapped. You didn't even have the decency to ask me what I meant. Instead, you ran away like a frightened child. That's why I'm so. You were wondering if your desire to breed was because you're a Cletharian brood queen. What's to misunderstand? I meant the action, not the process, Kivaza scoffed from the depths. Brood queen? Who called us that? Kayla added. Stop fabricating your own reality around us. I haven't felt this sensation in a while, Syntholo said as he grinned at Shinji. That ominous feeling hanging in the air all around us. We call that killing intent. I'd be quiet if I were you. Callie spoke slowly through bared teeth. That's not what I said, and it's certainly not what I meant. I was talking about what I see as the purpose behind the emotion of love, and wondering if my perception was being influenced by that part of my genome. I'm not a brood queen. I don't even know if I'm fertile or capable of reproducing, or if I could even find anyone that's genetically compatible with me. Well, at least we don't have to worry about it now, Shinji said firmly. He just can't keep his mouth shut, Syntholo said softly. Apparently not, Tyrell chuckled softly. Don't make me throw you two off of my bridge, Callie growled. Feel free, Tyrell was trying not to laugh. I'll just go check on Gaori, Syntholo said nervously. You two aren't going anywhere, she snapped. Then I suppose I should make myself comfortable. She watched silently as Syntholo walked over and sat in a chair in front of the closest ship console. Where was I? Callie muttered as she turned her attention back to Shinji. It's a matter of communication, Tyrell said as if he were reciting from a script. Syntholo glanced at him quizzically and then surreptitiously typed on the console as Callie lectured Shinji on the importance of communication. Tyrell pursed his lips slightly as he nodded slowly. Syntholo covered his mouth and stifled a chuckle. What's so funny? Callie snapped. Nothing at all, Lady Darkseid, Syntholo said with a playful look in his eyes. It must have been a nervous tic. She regarded them with suspicion momentarily before continuing. I did it for my own peace of mind, Shinji insisted. It's not just about you. I'm more comfortable this way. Syntholo typed something swiftly on the console. Tyrell burst out laughing. Callie's twin brown tails lashed out, whip-like, stopping just shy of Tyrell's throat. Calm down, Tyrell snapped. This is no laughing matter, Callie insisted. Actually, Syntholo said as a crooked grin crept across his face. You may not be able to appreciate it right now, but it really is. How? Callie demanded. Shinji, Tyrell said while trying not to laugh, walk around the room, please. I'd like you to demonstrate how comfortable you really are. Shinji winced as he shifted his weight from one foot to the other. That's just cruel, Syntholo jeered. Callie's tails slowly lowered to the floor as she looked at them with confusion. Give the kid a break, Tyrell sighed. He's still recovering from the procedure. It was unnecessary, Callie scoffed. Time is the one commodity we shouldn't be wasting, and this betrayal set us back a full day. That's a bit strong, Syntholo objected. How is this a betrayal? He didn't dance with me, Kayla thought to herself sadly as Kivaza scolded her for getting distracted. Don't, Tyrell said. She has it in her head that the three of us conspired against her. It's just birth control, Syntholo scoffed. Even within the structure of the Dominion, we respect bodily autonomy. There's a difference between submission and subjugation, Lady Darkseid. Your man, Tyrell, has told me you're new to your station. Be sure not to let your newfound influence become a yoke around the necks of those who willingly stand with you. I wonder what play that line was stolen from, Kayla mused. I bet Nelfrey would know. That's not what this is about, Callie said as she stomped her foot in frustration. Syntholo watched her with a stony glare as Tyrell smirked. Calm down, Kivaza urged, you're taking this far too seriously. You three orchestrated this plot behind my back, using my money to pay for the implant, and not one of you even took a minute to consider consulting me. It's his body, Syntholo growled. That makes it his decision, not yours. It was still my money, Callie grumbled, and my people aren't eligible for a faction discount. You're still feeling guilty about that bottle of red, Kivaza scolded, aren't you? I already told you I paid it using the discretionary fund, Tyrell said. The implant is the safest and most effective method available. I was concerned about his health, for your sake and his. This entire fiasco was based on a faulty assumption, Callie insisted. Someone should have talked to me first. I have the right to be upset. Stop acting like I don't. Kivaza grew concerned that her other self may have forgotten what the point of this really was. The result would have been the same, Syntholo scoffed. This wasn't a decision made lightly. We discussed it at length before he underwent the surgery. This resolves any nagging doubts, and it will only take a few weeks for him to recover completely. Weeks? Callie whined. How many weeks do I need to wait before we can? Tyrell laughed. Kivaza was relieved. Kayla did remember. What's so funny? Callie asked angrily. You've spent hours ranting and raving about feeling betrayed, being indignant about not being consulted, preparing give them a piece of your mind, and I've had to listen to every word of it. I see now it was just the tantrum of a selfish child who was upset that she'd have to wait a little while before getting good and... Sin Tholo began to laugh. Callie blushed. Stop, Shinji said urgently. What's wrong? Callie asked. I really want to laugh, but it hurts, he whimpered. Callie threw up her hands in disgust, stormed onto the elevator, and grumbled quietly to herself as the door slowly closed. You had me worried for a second there, Kivaza thought. I didn't get what I went to that club for. I just realized I could have stopped by to visit that nice Cayman in room 6, and started thinking. Kayla's thoughts were chaotic. Never mind. I'm fine. The main drive is primed and will be leaving orbit momentarily, Tyrell's voice sounded over the ship intercom. The inertial increase will stabilize in a few seconds. Not yet, Jake's voice spoke urgently through the speakers, we're not ready down here. The sound of Gaori screeching in agony echoed down the corridor as the door opened. No calamity, Kivaza thought irritably. Callie's consciousness swept through the ship, pinpointing her location. She rushed down the hallway and turned toward the medical bay. If we don't move into position now, Tyrell said, we'll lose our reserve position in the queue for the slipstream. Just a few more moments, Jake insisted. Callie rounded the corner and rushed to the doorway leading into the operating area. Gaori was strapped down to the operating table. Ziku was steadying her wing. The flesh near her spine was pinned open as Jake's scalpel hovered above her. I can't, Tyrell insisted. It's fully automated. According to the ship registration, the Regicide 1 was a frigate. It's a bit too large to be classified as a corvette and far too small to be considered a destroyer. It's faster and more maneuverable than most ships of its size class. The inertial dampening system simply can't keep up with their acceleration rate. It catches up rapidly once it reaches optimum speed, however, there's always a noticeable lurch when the main drive first activates. There was nothing she could do but watch as the engines engaged. As the ship lurched forward, Jake lost his footing as his injured leg gave under him. He flung the scalpel into one of his left arms. He grabbed onto the operating table with his remaining 3 arms to keep himself from falling. Ziku helped steady Jake with one massive hand, as his other arm held Gaori's wing in place. His movements were so fluid and effortless, it was as if he had been completely unaffected by the abrupt acceleration. Ziku, if you can move like that, Callie noted. If you can be that graceful, why are you always lumbering around the ship? All Ja Galtim dance for the girls, Ziku said with a toothy grin, but it's fun to go thump when we walk. Jake's translator was endlessly reciting translation not available, like some strange mantra. Callie turned her attention to Jake. Is there a problem with your translator? He waited for the module to fall silent, then said, it is functioning properly. There are no words in the common tongue to convey the meaning of phrases which, in my language, are so profane. Does your leg hurt that badly? After another string of untranslated profanity, he added, I'm not concerned with that. It took me some time to isolate the proper nerve cluster. It's unpleasant work, which requires inflicting great discomfort upon my patient. If it's not done properly, she'll live her entire life experiencing phantom pains which will serve as a constant reminder of what she's lost. I have to admit whoever did this to her has a real talent for inflicting suffering. If it's possible, I'd very much like to meet them to discuss the artistry of their brutality. I don't understand, Callie muttered, I thought you were amputating her damaged wing. It may not be necessary, Jake said. It's not a simple matter of the weight of her remaining wing. She's suffered severe nerve damage which is substantially affecting her mobility. If I can successfully reroute the signals, we may not need to amputate. You can do that? I'm not entirely sure, Jake admitted. I am familiar with this sort of damage, given the nature of my former employment. My work lacked the sadistic beauty I see here. I'm up to the challenge, but I know better than to guarantee success. Can you at least give her something for the pain? I did. Jake seemed annoyed, even if the emotion was not conveyed through the translator module. Callie tapped her communicator. Tyrell? What do you need? He replied over the medical bay speakers. Jake's in the middle of surgery down here, Callie explained. It's a delicate procedure. Will there be any issues and we enter the slipstream? I don't think so, but you may want to wait. There are only 2 ships in front of us right now, so it shouldn't take more than 10 minutes. Callie looked over at Jake. Is that good enough? Jake made an odd clicking sound as he spoke. You say that as if there is a choice to be made, Jake's translator recited. Her telepathic abilities alone weren't enough to get a solid understanding of Jake's thoughts or emotional state. His species was far too alien to her. Was that laughter? I have to do. Update me with the outcome of the operation once you're done, Callie said. After a few minutes passed, Jake remarked, You're still there. Callie shifted uncomfortably. In the past, she'd spent most of her spare time on the bridge, but she didn't want to be around Syntholo, Tyrell, or Shinji right now. I'll be in my room, Callie grumbled as she turned and walked away. Callie studied the most recent star map updates on the console in her room. The most recent sighting of the ship that they were looking for was extremely problematic. It had already traveled from Nairobi to the Amu-John quarantine zone. It just didn't seem possible. Traveling that distance would take 18 days in jump space if they traveled in a straight line. What made matters worse was that the Dew Star Nebula is between those 2 points. Without taking a space corridor like the slipstream, there was no safe way through. They would have to go around the nebula, which would have added another 7 to 10 days depending on how closely they skirted the edge of the cloud. How did they do it? Numerous methods of space travel have been developed over the long history of Corellis. Judging travel time based on the distance traveled by light was common among early societies, but deciding on what units of time to base the measurement on was problematic, to say the least. Corellis Standard Time may be used as a referential, but it didn't reflect solar cycles on any planet other than the one on which the Information Society was founded. Attempts to travel at the actual speed of light, in real space, proved to be a bad idea. The Colmian Empire was the first to accomplish this goal, with disastrous results. Once reaching that speed, there was no way to decelerate. Eventually, the fleet crashed into the Tazalum system, becoming the backbone of the GodNet information network. Relativity can be a real bitch once you realize the time involved in decelerating enough to take your finger off a button. Other means of space travel proved far more viable. Warp technology compresses spacetime in front of the ship's path. The decompression wave behind the ship propels it rapidly enough to allow for intersystem travel. Traveling at this rate within a star system wasn't viable. A minuscule piece of debris could shred the most durable vessel. During longer, correctly plotted, journeys, the leading compression and trailing expansion wake would displace most debris. A dual warp drive increases the speed significantly but requires a larger hull. Triple drives have been attempted, but have ended in the vessel equipped with the system being destroyed, usually either imploding or exploding. Travel time is usually measured in either jump days or warp days. It takes approximately 8 days at warp speed to travel a single jump day, or 5 days using a dual warp system. Unlike warp drives, jump drives don't propel the ship through real space. They create artificial wormholes with a set destination point. The corridor between the entrance and exit is referred to as warp space. Jump engines are incredibly useful, but there are massive restrictions involved. The drive itself takes up roughly 1,500 tons of hull space, which rules out Corvette-class and smaller ships. While there have been plenty of unconfirmed claims to the contrary, in every documented case, vessels consisting of 10,000 tons of mass or more destabilized the jump space corridor. The ship that attacked the refugee colony couldn't have been using jump engines, Callie grumbled as she changed her search parameters and hit enter. Fleet movements are typically limited by the speed of the slowest ship, which is why all ships with jump drives come equipped with warp capability. With exception of slipstreams, the only known method of travel faster than jump requires space-folding technology. Rapidly moving large fleets consisting of anything larger than destroyer class require the use of link or gate technology, both of which fold space. Starlinks are point-to-point travel with a set entrance and exit point. Gates, on the other hand, can drop you anywhere in the universe. The further the distance, the longer the fold takes to complete. Unfortunately, gates are a one-way trip and can't be used to retrieve the fleet once it's deployed. Well, it wasn't a link, Callie sighed. There are only 2 functional gates, and they're massive. It's considered a lost technology, but I'd be willing to bet the Information Society still has blueprints stashed away somewhere. Is it possible for a ship to gate itself? She paused to consider her words. There was technically a 3rd gate, built into the Wraith planetoid, but that was another matter entirely. Callie ran her fingers through her hair and clenched her fists in frustration, pulling slightly. Damn it. The ship appeared, fired, and then it just vanished. None of this makes sense. What kind of technology are they using? Is it something new, forgotten, or repurposed? Tyrell's voice sounded over the ship intercoms. We're maneuvering into slipstream now. Could they have? Callie wondered as she looked toward the speaker. A faint vibration flowed through the hull as the slipstream carried them forward like a swiftly flowing river through space. It was widely believed that the slipstreams were naturally forming cosmic streams and eddies, but Callie knew better. The ancestral memory from the Elderon segment of her genome didn't provide her with specifics. It simply provided her with an intuitive understanding of things beyond her experience. While hard to explain, it was a state of knowing without any comprehension of how you know. The Elderos Empire created the first slipstreams, and they've been weakening over the millennia. They didn't share the secret locations of these intergalactic pathways, but many were eventually discovered by the younger races. Could there be an uncharted slipstream that passes through the Nadrock colony? The only place that information could be found would be the ancient Elderon homeworld. Where I fought and killed that damn Ravenhawk clone, Callie grumbled. She'd been told there was a pathway to Midguard from the ancient Elderon seat of power, but never found it. Kayla's body was slain there only to be saved by Kivaza, who had traveled there through the great machine at the heart of the planet Midguard. Technically, it was Bruha's body, she corrected herself, but Kayla's consciousness was controlling it at the time. We had to merge our consciousness to prevent hers from being lost. Kayla quietly walked over to the doorway and stood there silently. She could feel another mind on the other side of the door. He'd been there for some time. She sensed a subtle shift within the other mind and heard the faint sounds of movement. One of her brown tails slapped the button to open the door. Shinji tumbled into the room, landing on the floor at her feet. He yelped in pain as he reached his hands between his legs. Serves you right, Callie snickered. You're still this upset? Shinji asked. Is there anything I can do to make this right? Nothing comes to mind, Callie said as her tails thumped the floor behind her. When you think of something, he said in desperation, just tell me and I'll do it. Callie sighed. What was that trick you told me earlier to help me get around easier? Shinji asked as he struggled to get up. That won't help with this, Callie said as she knelt beside him. Let me help you. I expected you to use telekinesis, Shinji remarked as she gently helped him to his own room, and sat him on his bed. You're not heavy, she scoffed. Besides, I like touching you. Just be careful with that, Shinji complained. It really hurts down there. Sin Tholo said it took a while to get used to the added weight, but he didn't say anything about how much it hurts after the surgery. He's not from Terran stock. He's Laika, Callie said with a shrug. What makes you think their pain threshold is at all comparative? I hadn't thought of that, he admitted, but the pain is unbearable. You're talking to me about pain, Callie laughed heartily. I did tell you how my old master trained me, didn't I? This isn't a competition, Shinji grumbled. This was all for nothing, Callie snickered. I don't have a uterus or even a cervix down there. I have no idea how you thought I could get pregnant. I know you're only part Terran, but I don't think of you as some alien thing. I just assumed. Assuming anything about me is a bad idea, Callie chuckled. There still could be a way, Shinji said with a strange eagerness. We could ask Jake. Not every woman wants to have offspring, Callie scoffed. You might someday, Shinji insisted. It can't hurt to ask. I just don't have the time or inclination, she said with a wry smile. Maybe I'll ask him once he's done dissecting Gaori. What? It's a joke, she teased. Given your reaction to finding out about his background, I couldn't resist. Shinji scowled. Well, I was going to teach you how to concentrate while you're distracted, Callie mused. I suppose your pain could be a training aid. I really wish you hadn't noticed me when you did. Why? I've distracted you, and it felt like you were about to make a breakthrough. Yeah, Callie said. You do seem to have that effect on me. It's not always a bad thing, but that thought chain's broken now. Sin Tholo told me what happened at the refugee colony, Shinji said. He told me you were trying to find the people behind the attack. You seemed to be trying to work that out and I didn't want to interrupt. It probably wasn't that important, Callie said dismissively. I thought that if I could figure out how they get around, it could help locate where the ship is deployed from. It has to go somewhere to resupply, right? Why couldn't it just resupply at any port? Shinji asked. If it stopped just anywhere, someone would notice it. There's only been a single sighting since it left the Nadrock colony, and it's questionable. It has to have a base of operations hidden out there somewhere. It hasn't arrived at any registered Starlink and it's too big to have a jump drive, so where is it? So, it must be using a warp drive. They appeared on sensors, launched a probe, picked up an escape pod and then vanished. Cloaking ships don't use warp drives for a reason. The warp compression wave would have been detected. What other drives are there? Shinji asked. What do penetrators use? Dual-linked warp drives, Callie answered without thinking. She hadn't known the answer. Until he'd asked her. The information must have been drawn from her ancestral memory. Shinji scowled. What does that leave? Gate technology? I really doubt it. The gates are massive. Mind if I chime in? Tyrell said over the intercom. I've been listening in. I'd prefer a little privacy, Callie teased, but if you have any useful input. There are a few Midnight Fellowship starbases that deploy fleets using a technology they call a catapult drive, Tyrell explained. It does fold space, but the range is limited. It allows them to propel the entire fleet forward the equivalent of a single jump. The downside is that the starbase stays behind, and has to either recall the fleet after the battle or catch up a few weeks later. How does that help? Callie asked. We may not have rediscovered gate technology, but we're getting closer, Tyrell insisted. I'd love to know what kind of engine Baron Deloric's ship used if the rumors have any truth to them. What rumors? Callie asked. He didn't get where he is today by charisma alone, Tyrell said. He promised to show up to rescue anyone that sided with him, whenever they called. Apparently, he delivered, but I couldn't tell you how. That's a big problem, Kayla thought internally. Bakir won't be able to deliver on that. He must have just had people camping out at the Pilth Stargate, Shinji scoffed. Not a chance, Tyrell clucked. He'd show up and leave with the fleet he went to save, sometimes taking parts of the enemy ships with him. Really? Callie asked. How? Who's not listening now? Tyrell asked. Do you think the ship that attacked the colony could have been using a technology like that? Based on the reports I've read, Tyrell considered, I highly doubt it. That ship was in low orbit when they vanished. They would have carved a huge chunk out of the planet's surface if they were using the same technology. I'm a bit confused, Shinji said. What does this have to do with slipstreams? Nothing, Tyrell scoffed. Everything, Callie said with a broad grin. That was it, now I remember. She leaned forward and kissed Shinji forcefully. He winced with pain but didn't object. I ran into a Ravenhawk clone while I was visiting the ancient Elderon homeworld, Callie said excitedly. If you want to find the locations of long-forgotten slipstreams, that's the place to find them. After all, they were the ones who made them. According to whom? Tyrell mocked, then paused. But if they were created, wouldn't it be better to recover that lost knowledge? Imagine it. If that kind of technology became publicly available, jump drives would become obsolete virtually overnight. We'd be able to travel distances in hours that take weeks now. Most of the current links would fall into disuse and the gate would lose most of its strategic value. You're drooling again, Callie chided. How would you know? Tyrell chuckled. You can't see me. I was shocked when you told me you'd had a child, Callie mocked. I'm surprised you didn't marry a toaster. Considering everything that happened with my ex-wife, Tyrell laughed, I probably would have been better off if I did. At least a toaster puts off some warmth, which is more than I'd say about her at this point. Shinji burst out laughing. Callie smiled. Damn it, that hurts, Shinji complained. Don't make me laugh. That's all on you, kid, Tyrell chuckled. I can't make. Shinji looked toward the intercom in confusion. Tyrell, Callie asked nervously. What's wrong? Do you think he turned it off by mistake? Shinji asked. There's a faint sound whenever the speaker is active, Callie said. I can still hear it. Tyrell, answer me. Is something wrong up there? There was no reply. I'm going up to the bridge, Callie said firmly. I'm coming with you, Shinji insisted. Your specialty is empathic projection, Callie said. I need you down here. You need to keep everyone calm. Can you do that for me? She felt the conflicting desires within him. He wanted to be with her but liked the idea of being able to be useful. I really need your help, Callie urged. I'll do my best, he said softly. Thank you, Callie said and then walked over and pressed the button to open the door. Nothing happened. She hit the button again, but it remained closed. What now? Shinji asked. I guess we're stuck in here. Do you think a locked door is enough to stop me? Callie giggled. I'll just have to fix it later. Are you going to just break down the door? Of course not, Callie said. That's a relief, Shinji said in an exaggerated tone. I'm just going to liquefy the metal and walk through. Didn't that master of yours teach you how to open a door without breaking it? Shinji taunted. Let me deal with this. Callie stepped back from the door and narrowed her eyes. If you think you can do better, she said skeptically, show me. Your eyes did that thing again, Shinji remarked. What thing? The blue ring around your irises changes sometimes, Shinji said. It looks like a starburst now. I knew it changed, but this is the first time I've seen it happen. It looks like it stretches out in every direction. Do you know what causes it? Callie blushed. I can adjust my eyes so I can perceive the flow of energy. It's not just electricity. I can see people's talents even when they're not actively using them. I wish I could do that. Is there any way you can show me what things look like to you? I've never tried. I'm not sure how. Most psionic abilities give off blue light if that helps. He rested his hands against the door. Can you tell me what this looks like to you? He asked. Just open the door, Callie snapped. We don't have time for this. Tyrell could be injured. She watched as a current of energy flowed from his head, down his arms, and into the door. The energy flowed outward into the wall. Callie recognized the look and feel of the emission, but normally this sort of pulse would be emitted when searching for other minds, not directed into an object. The normal use was a sort of radar sense that returns feedback to the psionicist. The pulse shifted from telepathic to telekinetic as it returned to Shinji. A loud metallic clank resounded through the room, and the door opened slightly as the locking mechanism disengaged. I've heard of a mystrionic ability called skeleton key, Callie mused. I didn't know you could get the same effect with psionics. It's a nice trick. It's just more of that useless PRI programming, Shinji teased. Callie pushed the door the rest of the way open. I'm going to need you to make sure nobody's trapped in any of the rooms, she said. Unlock all the doors, just in case. Except for the one at the end of the hallway, Shinji corrected her with a mischievous grin. Good point, Callie thought to him as she rushed down the hallway. If Tyrell lost control of the ship that abruptly, we may be under attack from an enemy cyberpath. If they gain control of both of the airlock doors, they could kill the entire crew. They designed those doors so they can't both be open at the same time, he thought back. I'm pretty sure a cyberpath could override that, she countered. Callie reached out with her elemental manipulation, liquefied a portion of the metal where the inner door connected to the wall, and fused it shut. Problem solved, she said with a smile, which faded swiftly. Someone was heading toward them, looking for her. She could feel their bloodlust hanging heavily in the air. Stay in the room, she thought to Shinji. Someone's coming. We may have been boarded. Callie raised herself just above the ground using her telekinesis, called out to the elements, and compressed the air behind her, then released it, propelling herself forward. She could feel the rage-filled consciousness approaching the end of the hallway. She slammed into them, just as they began to round the corner, pinning them against the heavy metal door which led to the break room. Jake exhaled sharply. Oh, sorry, Callie said as she blushed with embarrassment. Why do you people keep interfering with my work? The translation of his words sounded calm, but his natural speech pattern and emotion conveyed the true meaning. I didn't realize it was you, Callie said indignantly. I felt your rage and thought you were a threat. You turned off all of the med bay equipment and locked me in, the calm translation module said. A fine spray of spittle came from his mouth as he ranted in his native tongue. We didn't do anything, Callie said with a steely glare. Something's happened to Tyrell, and the ship's in lockdown. I have no idea what's going on. I'm on my way to the bridge now. He tilted his head, spread his mandibles, then said, It seems I have misjudged the situation, my apologies. How may I assist you? I'll take care of it, Callie said sternly, then paused. How did you get out of the room? I opened up the door control panel and shorted out the lock. This isn't exactly the first time I've had to escape from a locked room. Callie released her hold on him and took a step back. I didn't feel any impact, Jake noted. If we are under attack, they must plan on taking us alive. I'd appreciate a weapon if you have one to spare. The door closest to the elevator was the former owner's vault. There are some weapons in there, but I'm not sure what she had. I'll leave getting the door open to you. Only take what you need. Just don't shoot any holes through the hull. Jake chittered quietly. I'll try not to. Where's Ziku? Still in the medical bay holding Gary's wing, I'd imagine, Jake shrugged exaggeratedly. He was attempting to emulate Terran's body language, but it looked awkward. The twins get bored easily, Callie said urgently. You shouldn't leave him alone too long. The fire suppression system must be offline. What makes you think that? Callie asked. He pointed behind her. She looked over her shoulder and saw a glittering mass of purple energy seeping from under the door to Syntholo's room. Callie refocused her eyes so she wouldn't see the energy of his special ability. I guess it does look like black smoke to you, Callie grinned. That's just Syntholo. He seems to be able to manipulate shadows. Please open the door to Syntholo's room, she thought to Shinji. I'm on the way, he replied and rushed into the hallway. Wait, is that smoke? Are you sure it's safe? What if the fire spreads? The shadowy mass seemed to thicken and concentrate in front of the door. Just do it, Callie said irritably. As he approached the door, the shadows began to take form. Yellow eyes and a row of sharp white teeth emerged as clawed feet and arms drew out of the dark mist. Shinji yelped in fear as he jumped away, striking the wall behind him. I need to stop underestimating my crew, Callie muttered under her breath. Sorry if I scared you, Syntholo said as his three tails wagged lazily behind him. I take it he's not Terran, Jake said. Laika, Callie said with a shrug as if it explained everything they'd just seen. This is his alternate form. Interesting, Jake said appreciatively. I'm going to go change my pants now, Shinji said with a blush. What is the current situation? Syntholo asked as he peered at Callie with a ferocity in his eyes. I am heading to the bridge to investigate, Callie said. Judging by the look on your face, I assume you're coming with me? Wait. Why can he go with you? Shinji objected, but you're making me stay behind. It may be the smell, Syntholo chuckled. I didn't actually soil myself, Shinji scoffed. You smell like fear, Syntholo said dismissively. Come with me, Callie said to Syntholo. Let's see what's going on up there. As they rounded the corner she added, when you're in this form you have an extra little rumble in your voice. I like it. Don't tell Shinji, he might get jealous. I heard that, Shinji yelled from around the corner. I know, Callie said with a broad grin.